now. It's okay. You can not record the whole thing. That'd probably be best. While I think about it. Should I wait? Am I doing the polite thing or not? Yeah. Good. Okay. Well, welcome to my talk. This is Embrace the Bogeyman, Tactical Fear-Mongering for Those Who Penetrate. We should ask ourselves, probably define, what is a boogeyman? And like all great questions, they can be answered by Googling them. And when you Google this, you find that a boogeyman is either an imaginary evil spirit referred to typically frightened children. And while we might think our executives at work are children, I like this other definition better. A person or thing that is widely regarded as an object of fear. And that is exactly what has happened to our internal red team. So we want to ask ourselves, why? Why pen test? Why try and hack things? Why do any of this? Why am I standing up here? Why did I want to even try and talk about any of this stuff? And it came down to, I really care about the way we use penetration testing and red teaming and offensive security to try and create change. And I wanted to kind of share the internal story of how we were able to use that to move things. And the how, this slide is just in here so I can make the joke, well, how about we get along with this presentation already? So, I know I'm awful. So the black swan theory, this is something that I've mentioned before, but the idea of the black swan theory is that it's an event or a metaphor that describes an event that comes as a surprise, has a major effect, and is often inappropriately rationalized after the fact with the benefit of hindsight. So probably like the best example is when 9/11s were to happen. And basically, if you started asking people like, hey, how likely is this thing to happen like a few days before? People would say like, not at all. People weren't afraid to fly or anything like that. But the day after, everyone was terrified of flying. Like the likeliness of this thing happening went up because it happened yesterday. So this applies very, very deeply to penetration testing and red teaming and hacking, because suddenly when you demonstrate things, people wake up and they think that things are more likely. So the thing that this doesn't really state is that cognitive bias change that happens inside people, and suddenly they think that because you demonstrated something is real and something is possible, that it's more likely to happen. And you can use that effect to actually try and get things done. So if you ask organizations what they're afraid of for real, it isn't the next SSL bug. It isn't really those things. I mean, like if a company has a mature security program, their greatest fear isn't the next ransomware that makes you want to cry, right? It's this idea that you're going to get blindsided by something that you don't know and you have no idea about it, and you won't be able to respond. You won't be able to actually take any action. Because when companies have a mature security program, they're already like scanning things. They're already looking for vulnerabilities. They have the ability to try and look for the known vulnerabilities, but it's the unknown things. And it ends up being this like itch that you can't scratch. Just this thing that, man, you know there's just something that you're missing, and as your company gets bigger and scales, and you just, man, like, what is that? So the pun-flea inclined of you probably thinking like, oh, well, if there's this itch you can't scratch, maybe you just become an ass company and sell abrasion as a service, and that will help scratch things for them. No, that is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is red teaming, right? You get a group of Island of Misfit toys together, and you have them blow up everything, and that can create this event for a company that can scratch that itch. Is it going to be everything? No. But with a real red team, not a penetration test, and there's a difference, right? Like not the idea that you're going to scan, you're going to fill out a list of vulnerabilities, and you're going to say, here's the report of vulnerabilities. But the idea that you're going to have this independent group who is going to go after the company and shake things up by whatever means necessary. Everything's in scope. They can do anything they need. And this can create that event, that black swan for the company, where there was something like they didn't think about it. They didn't know. I'm rambling. Fuck this. So the idea is that if you do this pen test in a real red team fashion, suddenly you've proven that something was possible. come in and you just drop the hammer of hacks, and you drop the book, you throw the book of hacks at them. And they suddenly are like, whoa, I didn't realize this was possible. And now there's no arguing about the security hypotheticals between like, oh, technically with this vulnerability, you might be able to get to this thing and the impact could be blah. No, the impact's real because the impact just happened. And that fact that possibility was just proven out, that will push priority, because that cognitive bias and the black swan effect where people suddenly think it's more likely to happen. In reality, not really. Nothing has changed. You have just demonstrated something. But the way people think will change, and that possibility will push priority, and priority will get things done. And getting things done is good, right? We want to get things done. We want to fix security issues. I'm like super, super thirsty, and all I have is this not water up here. So I don't know if this is going to quench my thirst, but just bear with me. Okay, not too bad. So I say embrace the boogeyman, right? Let's pen test like it's real. Let's red team like it's real. Let's be an adversary for our companies to push on the processes that are broken, to push on the things that we know need called out. This is an exercise in calling out people on their bullshit, basically. The idea that you can say everything is fine and that's enough, right? Where you have this interaction and someone says, like, are you guys secure? And you say, yes, we're secure. And I say, okay, it's not enough. Embrace the boogeyman. Let's create these events. So our internal red team is rather notorious inside the company. People are afraid of us because we clearly don't play by the rules, but also we abuse certain things that we see as problems. So one problem that maybe you guys have seen in your organization is people like walk away from their computers and they don't lock them, right? So this is a picture of a wall on a floor that we don't work on, right? We're up here for a meeting or something like that, and what they had done is someone left their computer unlocked, and someone, not the red team, went and like put this paper over it that says, lock your computer. The red team will get you. Trust no one. And then they took a picture of this person's computer with the sign on it and hung it up on the wall like some kind of like public shaming event, right? And this was unprompted. This wasn't something that we were telling people to do. They just did this, and I mean, I really liked this, right? This gave me like the warm fuzzies inside. So you're probably thinking to yourself, like, what if you don't have this boogeyman? Right? I mean, what if you don't have this already? And the chances are maybe you don't have this type of internal scary change catalyst that can push on people. So my advice is come to the dark side, right? Like, true. Also, I spent some serious time on this, clearly, right? Nothing like an iPad, a bottle of vodka, a stylus, and way too much time on my hands. But you can build the boogeyman out. It doesn't have to start with much. You can use your skills, use your security skills to create a meaningful change catalyst for your company by demonstrating that something is wrong and that there is a security gap. We as security professionals have this tendency to want to just like kind of shit all over everything, where we always want to say like, that's wrong and this bug is bad, and we want to make everything the worst problem ever. My advice is you can start small. You can choose one thing that is wrong and you can demonstrate it and try and get something that is impactful. So in order to do this, there are some very, very, very important prerequisites. The first is you actually need the freedom to make these choices independently for yourself. And to do that, you need buy-in from the boss. You need buy-in from the top. So if you go start hacking on stuff inside your company and calling people out and you don't have cover from the executive level, from your CEO, from someone up high who can provide you cover, you will probably get eaten alive. But if you can get someone to agree that like it's important to do these things and that you should be allowed to do these things, it'll be okay. And you'll have the freedom to operate within limitless scope, right? YOLO scoping. Second is impact. Your goal needs to be impact driven. This means that when you choose your target, when you choose the narrative that you're going to tell, you don't just say like, we hacked everything. because that, like, what? You can't just call out a ton of vulnerabilities. You can't give people too much than they're ready to handle. So you need to choose a goal that makes sense to people who aren't security people. And so your goal, like, maybe shouldn't be get domain admin and crack all the passwords. Because what's the impact of that? Like, what's the impact of cracking all the passwords? Now you have lateral movement, probably. You can access anyone's computer, probably. You could try and use the password somewhere else, probably. But that impact to the business is nothing. Yes, you have everyone's password. What do you do with them? You need to go and show the business that, hey, here's the impact. And be able to tell the story, maybe do it for real. But you need to show them that this is the thing that actually was the outcome. And good candidates for this, things that affect your stock price. Stealing lots of money from the company. Companies care about money. Getting people fired from the company. Embarrassing the company publicly. All of these things are really, really scary. If you can show that with your access from your domain admin that you could do this, and you can show people that perhaps your finger is above the enter key to end the company, that will cause an impact, and people will understand that, and that will resonate. The last one is maturity, which I know it's ironic coming from me. You need to build process around what you're doing, because as you start to build out a red team, you are going to get some like pretty crazy type A alpha personalities, and they're all over the place. So you need process for what it is that you deliver each time, what your impact is ahead of time. You guys need to know this, and you need to have very, very, very good documentation, build process around it, build tooling, and you have to constantly work towards more and more and more process maturity, because hacking is this chaotic thing where you have unlimited opportunity, unlimited possibilities, and what you want is that you can focus on figuring out the chain of things to cause that impact, and you don't have to worry about the reporting side. You don't have to worry about the list of vulnerabilities. That stuff should happen automatically. So I've talked a lot about, this has been largely philosophical this entire time, right? So I talked a lot about impact, and if you've seen some of my talks before, you've probably noticed that one of our processes internally is to build out these like terrifyingly creepy internet stalking social recon documents on people, where we're basically doxing a portion of the company who likely has access to what we want access to. And it's a very, very effective technique to do this, because it makes spear phishing very successful. It also makes you really understand the company very well. But when you do this and you show people, like, here's what we're doing, we're doxing you basically, they get terrified. And yes, you cause an impact, and yes, you shake things up, but there is a price to this that you don't always see coming, or I didn't see coming. What happens is that people become afraid of being a target. That is you being an effective boogeyman. But people are really afraid of being part of a red team readout deck. And they become so afraid that they inherently mistrust you for everything. And not just at like a, oh, you guys are probably hacking us, but at like a personal level. So like you'd get into the elevator and people would be like, oh, I don't want to like go to my floor. You're part of red team, right? Like, don't hack me. I'm just like, bro, I'm just going to work. Like, I work here too, right? But that doesn't really become, that doesn't really exist anymore. And you're so afraid that now like normal processes internally where you're like, hey, can I get access to these servers because I need to do my job? They'll like, no, you're red team. You're trying to hack us. You're trying to trick us. You can't have access, which fair enough. Sure, I guess. But it then extends out from there, and people are so afraid that people that work kind of adjacent to you are guilty by association, and then they can't get access to things. Right? They're so afraid of you that you basically just became the boogeyman. Really proud of this slide too. So what happens when you are this boogeyman? There is an immune response to your organization at a security level. You're internal, you are hacking on the company over and over, you are using certain tactics, hopefully not super over and over, but the company will respond and they will change. And the thing you have to watch out for is that your company, when you start red teaming them like this and you use whatever tactics, they will try and defend against just you. They will try and build an immunity to red team. and you have to guide them and try and help them so that they make an immunity to lots of general things. And the way you avoid this is keep them focused on root cause, right? And try and help them and make them think of the ways that they can not just solve the one technique you use, but solve classes of vulnerabilities. There's also a fear immune response, and this one's important to you as the boogeyman, because as a boogeyman, you're not effective if they're not afraid anymore, right? So the worst example, and I hate to quote someone like this, but someone basically said, why would we even bother trying to be more secure? The red team's just gonna win anyways. Like, ugh, that sucks. Someone could kick in my door. Why even lock it, right? So in order to fight that, you have to kind of look like a good ally for other people, even if you're an adversary. And you have to let people know that you really are there to help them, and you have to educate them on this over and over. And maybe it works. And you need to be tactful in how you deliver your results, and you can't give them more than they can handle, basically. If things are a dumpster fire, maybe they aren't ready to know that the dumpster is on fire, and you need to just let them know, look, it's a dumpster. Little bit, right? That way they can focus on fixing the things that are the outside, the perimeter, the really important stuff, that if you don't fix that, they're probably owned already. Because if you give them way, way, way too much work by calling out every single vulnerability, every single failure, every single flaw in the environment, they won't be able to get it all done. If you can give them priority, you can give them a set of, if you fix these 3 things, our test wouldn't be possible anymore. Who cares about the XSS server? Who cares about all these other things? Let's fix 3 things, these 3 things. And if you did that, it would break our kill chain. So if you threat model, here's the type of attack we did, here's the way we got into the environment, here are 3 things that would break this kill chain. Do those things, suddenly we'll need to think of a different way, and you won't get owned the same way again. So, yes. Or you try to if there is some, but that's just being a polite citizen, more or less. Like, you guys were good at this. You responded quickly. Yes, we stole your entire data center, but we noticed this good about you and this good about you. And that helps you partner with them in the remediation phases. So they're more likely to work with you through a threat model. They're more likely to want to try and fix things and not just feel like this is security and they're shitting on us again. Ugh. So you need to, you're an adversary and that is your role to play. But it doesn't mean that you have to always be adversarial with people. So, speaking of that, let me tell you about what not to do. So we remember that unlocked computer problem. So we got some new neighbors adjacent to us and where we were working, and these guys were warned, hey, you're sitting next to security, you're sitting near the red team, they're gonna mess with you. Lock your computers and be vigilant. And these people are just whatever. So now, working at a company, you're supposed to do security there, and when you come into work every day, you walk past a bunch of unlocked computers. Not only does that make your stomach be like, oh, are you kidding me? I want to do something with that. But it also means, man, you feel like you're failing, basically. So we developed a little plan to teach these guys a lesson, and basically made a small script that I'd curl down from this website that would add a authorized key into their SSH keys so that we could just get on their computers later because they left their computer unlocked. They clearly wanted other people to have access to it, right? So then we waited till Friday, 5 o'clock, and we wrote this little script to create the goat apocalypse. And what this does is it SSHs into their computer, and once it's on there, it maxes out the volume. It opens up these 3 URLs, which is the NCIS We've Been Hacked video, which shows you how to effectively stop hacking by having 2 people type on the same keyboard at once as fast as possible. It opens up a video of screaming goats, and there's one other that I can't remember. And it loops. It sleeps for a little tiny bit, but it basically calls itself at the end. Function YouTube vids calls YouTube vids. Is this recursion yet? I think so. So what ends up happening is we fire off this script, 5:30 on a Friday. Seems like a good time, people are going to wind down. but we want them to know that something bad is happening. So we're sitting there, hit fire, it starts SSHing everybody's system, and you just hear, we've been hacked. And then like person closes their computer. The next person, and it just starts happening all around the office. And for us, it's freaking hilarious. We're dying. We're like, this is the best thing ever. We are so good. We nailed it. Until my boss's boss walks over and is like, whatever you are doing, you need to stop right now. Because one of the guys' computers who we got access to was presenting in a meeting. Now the best part is, we're like, stop the script on our end, so we're no longer SSHing into people's machines, but this code's still running. So, can't, once you let the seahorses loose, they do whatever they want. So, the moral of this story is that there is a difference between a prank and propaganda. That mistake was a prank. Because what happened? The end result wasn't that people started locking their computers. The end result is that team was like, you need to move us to a different location now. We did not achieve our goal. We basically just made it go away by being assholes, more or less. And we spent a lot of good political capital, and we looked like clowns because we were not careful in how we were trying to craft the impact to get the result we wanted. We just were like angry and lashing out. So don't do pranks. Push propaganda. Think about the real result you want to get when you are hacking people. So, oh boy. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you, everybody.